Hey everybody, welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 519. That means we're one away from 520, which will be 10 years of Hump Day Hangouts. We mentioned it a few times already, but we're going to have some special guests with us. Also going to be having some fun. Highly encourage you to join us live at 4 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday. As always, we're happy to have you, but next week might be a good week to be there. Besides that, we got a couple of announcements. I was looking through the calendar at what's coming up, and I apologize. I lost my place in the calendar, so I'll just come back to that. I wanted to mention that if you missed out on the DHA 3-day live workshop, that sucks, but it's going to be okay. We'll get you the replays. You'll be able to purchase those and get access to the updated training that Bradley just finished 3 minutes ago. So once we get that stuff ready to go, you'll be able to purchase access to the replays. Of course, the downside of not attending live is you don't get to ask Bradley some questions, but we understand not everybody can carve out an hour for 3 days in a row during the week. But highly suggest you do these live. But again, if you can't, the replays will be available for you shortly. So we do have some cool webinars coming up. We're going to be talking with Jeremy Nosselman of Press Advantage. Keep an eye out for that. If you are not on the Semantic Mastery email list, highly suggest just going over to the website, semanticmastery.com, hopping onto the email list. We send out a ton of really good information about Hump Day Hangouts, about latest information, and things like this, the webinar coming up. So really looking forward to that. Jeremy's got some really good updates on kind of the AI side of things, what's going on with Google, press release landscape, and how this kind of ties into SEO. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Besides that, wanted to say hi to the guys real quick before we jump into your questions. So going to start with Chris. Chris, how you doing today?
Doing good, lots of work as usual, but super excited to be here.
Outstanding. Bradley, how you doing coming off of another webinar?
Yeah, that's why we're a couple minutes behind because I was wrapping up the third day of the 3-day workshop. So that went well. Small attendance. There was, I think, 7 people that showed up for the last couple of days, but there was a couple others that, well, I guess we'll just get the replays once they're processed. But yeah, it went well. It's basically how to set up a cold emailing system, the front end part of it, which is one of the hardest parts to get right. But I've spent a lot of time developing that over the last 4 years and kind of fine tuning what works in cold email. And that's all we use. I mean, that's 90% of the leads that are coming to all of different SEO and agency related businesses are generated through cold email. So that, it's very, very effective. And so I've gotten really good at that over the last few years. And that's what we were taught in the 3-day workshop. And we just wrapped it up. I thought it went well. Got a lot of good feedback from it. So hopefully those members will implement what they learned so that they can start growing their agencies.
Outstanding. And on top of that, we have had several new people joining the mastermind recently and also had one join today. It sticks out because his name is also Adam, but that was my cue for me to let you know, if you're ready to join the mastermind and you want to take your local SEO agency or your consulting up to the next level, you can go to mastermind.semanticmastery.com. And by take it to the next level, I mean be around others who are doing the same, get direct access to Bradley, get direct access to all of the SOPs and all of the training in there. So that is something that we encourage everyone to check out. We know it's not always a fit, but if you're serious about growing your agency, then this is the place for you. Again, that's mastermind.semanticmastery.com.
Yeah, and the new member that just joined out, his name's Adam. You're right. He became a mastermind member because I had a sales call with him for semantic links, and he was asking some really good questions about things that I was telling him in semantic links sales presentation. And I was like, hey, dude, I teach local SEO too. If you want more information on these, points, come join our mastermind. And he said, what's the link? I gave him the link and he joined. I just had that sales call with him like 2 days ago, and he joined. So that's great. So anyway, thought that was pretty cool.
Outstanding. Well,
Do we have any other announcements?
I got nothing on my plate. You guys got anything else before we get into questions?
No, just last thing I want to just briefly mention is we finally got the third and final service from our service offerings as the front end services or products that we sell as part of the DHA program. Finally got the third one done, which reviews, the review service system or review system. It took me way longer than I thought it was going to, almost was 4 times the amount of time I thought it was going to take to finish building that snapshot and everything, but it's done. My partner Harry and I are testing it, starting to test it already this week. And so we should have phase 2 ready for sure. Right after the first of the year, we should be able to launch phase 2, which is sales and fulfillment. It's only 6 weeks program. But for anybody that's gone through the phase 1, that has their marketing and prospecting machine up and running, that's generating leads, the phase 2 is specifically what to sell them and how to sell it. And we're going to go through that, and then how to fulfill what you sell. And so we're going to go through all of that in the 6-week phase 2 program. Again, that will be available for both the phase 1 groups, group 1 and 2, that have been through by that. When we launch phase 2, there will have been 2 groups that went through phase 1, and that'll be available to all of those. So just wanted to bring that up. We are going to open up, start phase 1 again in January. So anybody that is potentially interested in it, make sure you fill out that form that Adam can drop that in the chat, which is just showing that you're interested. That way you'll be on the notification list when we go to launch phase 1 DHA program again. Okay, just be aware of that. With that said, I'm going to grab the screen if we're good.
Go for it.
Okay, perfect. All right. Got a bunch from Huzaifa again, as usual, but it's okay. I appreciate the questions, and he usually asks some good questions. So let's go ahead and run through these. First one says, is it better to display the full address, including home, building, office, or suite number in a GBP, or is it providing just the general street address enough? Since multiple businesses might share the same street address, showing an exact address help Google better identify the business. Yeah, I recommend you do so, because that is a unique identifier, like a suite number, box number, office number, whatever. You know what I mean? I think it's important to do that. So even though I know, like, in a lot of the times you can have, there'll be address, street address, and then street address 2. And street address 2 is where you would put like a box number, suite number, office number, etc. What I typically recommend is actually putting the box number, street number, office number, etc. in the actual street address 1, like the main street address field, because because otherwise it can be omitted in the display sometimes, where it will just display the street address without the suite number. And if a business, a customer's trying to go to the business and it's not displayed, then that could confuse them. And also I found that it can cause problems, because the way that different citation or business directories will list things, sometimes they have the street address 2 option, sometimes they don't. So you have to include it street address 1 anyway when they don't provide that option. So just to standardize the format, I typically recommend, if there is a suite number, box number, etc., that you just include that in the street address 1 field, right? Which is street address plus the street number, suite number, or whatever, and then city, state, zip, etc. Hopefully that's clear. But yes, it's a unique identifier for multiple businesses at the same address. Okay. Additionally, for businesses operating from their homes, including the full address approved GBP rankings, and how should home-based businesses handle this concern to maintain privacy? Yeah, we talked about this, I thought, last week. But having a Google Business Profile street address displayed, or having the street address displayed in a Google Business Profile absolutely improves local search performance. I've tested this myself personally with several of my own tree care lead gen assets that it was probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, but I did a specific test and I shared the results in the mastermind, where I did it for 3 different GBPs that were lead gen assets of mine that had the hidden street address, because they were service area businesses that were registered to, not really acceptable office locations. I had several of them were PO box locations, which Google told, was very clear about that being against their acceptable use policy. But you could still get them registered and verified years ago. You can't now. It's very well, maybe sometimes, but it's very, very difficult to do. And so I went in and updated and made the address public for 3 of my lead gen assets. I got away with it for the first 2, and the third one triggered re-verification. That one is still live and on the web today. It still can generate leads, but I'm unable to edit that GBP now. I can't change it. I can't modify it. I can't publish posts. Can't do none of that stuff, because it triggered re-verification when I made the address public, or displayed the address, and I'm unable to re-verify it because it's video verification now. I'm not gonna be able to re-verify it, is what I'm saying. But the first 2 that I was able to make that update for, or change to, where I displayed the street address, those both it was on a Friday that I did it, and on a Monday I reran the local, because these were two underperforming GBPs that I had neglected anyways. And so I ran the local search grid report on Friday. I made the changes on Friday where I displayed the street address, and then on Monday I reran the local search grid reports, and both of them significantly improved in maps search, including the proximity, or the area with which they were ranking in the top 3. So it went from a little bit of green in the map to a big area of green, from just that change and that change alone. And it did with both locations. So I already knew that that was likely going to happen, but I wanted to prove it. So I did that specific test, and sure enough, without a doubt, it works, and it works really well, and works quickly too. So I always recommend publishing a street address. When somebody says, how should we do to protect privacy? I always recommend to the client, I tell tree contractors, it's against Google's terms of service or acceptable use policy to publish your street address when you're a service area business and clients don't come, or customers don't come to your office location, which in tree service contractors don't. But I tell them, like, customers don't come to the tree contractor's house or place of business, which is usually their house. Okay. So, but I tell them, if we publish your street address, you will get better search performance. Period. Understand. So I recommend to all of my tree contractors that that we publish their street address, but I always clarify that, or disclaim up front with, like, listen, do you understand? You have to be aware that there is a level of risk. If we publish your street address, it could very well likely trigger re-verification or suspension. As long as you have a real valid business location, even if it's your home, as long as your business is really run out of your home, then we are very likely able to get your GBP reinstated or re-verified if re-verification is triggered. But keep in mind that you have to make sure that the client is aware of that before you encourage them or recommend or suggest to them that they make that change, and make sure they're aware of the risks. Because otherwise, if you end up making the change and making it public and it gets suspended and they were not made very clear about that potential risk, then you're going to look like the jerk, and you could potentially be sued and everything else. No kidding. So you got to make sure that that's an agreement up front. It's made clear up front. And then if they agree to it, then go ahead and make the change. Okay. And that's what I would recommend doing. I tell all my tree guys, let's publish the street address. Just be aware that it could trigger it. If you don't, if a client says, well, I don't want my home being shown, then you have to also have that discussion with them. Like, please understand that, yes, we can still help you to get better results if you have a hidden address, but Google business profiles perform a lot better with a published street address. So is there a reason why you don't want your street address shown? If you're worried about it, then fine, we can leave it unpublished. Just know that it's like going into a fight with one arm tied behind your back. See what I'm saying? You're restricting our ability to get you results. So just, again, you just got to clarify it with the client. All right, moving on. Is there any benefit to creating WebTube blog posts, drive stacks, or any other online properties that can be made for free in an attempt to strengthen the brand if they don't get indexed? Well, if you're doing them properly, they can be indexed. Google Drive files will index, guys. Okay, Google Drive files will index, and yes, there is a benefit from them, even if they don't index. Something doesn't have to be indexed for it to provide SEO benefit, right? Link equity transfers from posts or pages that aren't indexed. It's better if they're indexed for sure, but you can still transfer link equity. I've done specific testing on that. So you can get a benefit from links that are coming from pages. Look, just because it's not indexed doesn't mean Google's hasn't crawled it, right? In order for you to receive benefit from a link, Google has to know that that link exists, which means all Google has to do is crawl the page, the referring page that contains the link. That's it. It doesn't have to be indexed to produce value. Google just has to be aware of the link, which means the page that contains the link has to be crawled by Google. It doesn't have to be indexed. Okay. And I've done testing on that. So I know for sure that you can extract value from links from pages that are not indexed. Now, getting links from a site that's been de-indexed, that's different. Different between getting a link from a site that's de-indexed and getting a link from a site that just has pages or posts that aren't indexed. There's a big difference between that. Okay. So, but drive stacks and all that, they're Google properties. Do you think Google's aware of the links within those documents? course they are. It's a Google property. That's why we build drive stacks. That's why Semantic Mastery and my former partner, Marco Benavides, created drive stacks to begin with, way back in 2015. It was funny because I had a sales call with a support call with a link building client. And he was asking me today, he was asking me specifically about drive stacks and Google stacks. And I mentioned to him, I was like, did you know we were the ones that actually launched that kind of in 2015, were the first ones to come up with that? He was like, no kidding. It's like, yep, pretty proud of that, because they still work to this day, because they're Google properties, guys. You can push a lot of authority through Google properties very quickly. Okay. Many times it's Google Docs or Drive links, Web2 blog posts or properties are not indexed to Google. That's correct. A lot of the times they're not, but you can get them to index. Again, Web 2.0s, by the way, guys, a lot of the times, like for example, I use Majestic as my backlink analysis application, and Majestic automatically filters out a lot of Web 2 stuff until you build some strength, some link strength into it, and then it will recognize it and show it in your, it's not that Majestic doesn't recognize it. Majestic doesn't show what it considers very low quality, insignificant links. If there's not enough strength from the link, that's the difference between what Majestic calls its historic index and its fresh index. Its fresh indexes are only the links that it thinks are valid and relevant and provide some measure of value. But historic index will have everything. And so what I'm saying is, like, Web 2s will typically be kind of fairly ignored until you start to push some authority and relevance into those assets, which is why we teach to build branded and supporting assets initially, right when you start a campaign, and then you force Google to recognize all of those branded and supporting assets. How do you do that? There's a number of ways to do that. Link to them from Google Business Posts. Again, guys, I don't understand why so many people have a hard time, like, they just don't do this in the SEO industry. Go do a brand search for whatever brands you're working on. For any of your clients, go do a brand search. Preferably, if it's a local business, go geolocate the brand for the search, the browser first. So the search settings. Let me just show you an example. Okay, this is the Bright local search checker, right? This is free. You can use this for free. If I want to, let's just use the Louisville Felling Pro project as an example. So I'm going to put Louisville KY down here to simulate a search for as if I were standing in Louisville, Kentucky, or somewhere in Louisville, Kentucky, right? And then go do a brand search. Sorry, I had a typo for a minute. It threw me off. Go do a brand search. What you want to do is look at the first 2 pages of the search results, and you want to determine how well developed is the knowledge graph for this specific brand, this branded location. Okay, so branded business location. Because remember, you can be a multi-location brand. So what we're trying to do is identify how well developed is the knowledge graph for that specific branded location, which is why we geolocate the browser to simulate a search from where the project is located, the GBP is physically located. And then you do a brand search and look at the top 2 pages. You should pretty much own, or that business should pretty much populate all 20 of the top 2 pages with branded or supporting assets or external page URLs that have accurate information published about this specific business location. Do you understand? That indicates that the knowledge graph is well developed. If it's not well developed, if you don't pretty much own the top 2 pages, and by the way, I pretty much own 100%, right? Take a look at this. Every one of these: money site, ID page, Google site, Web 2.0 blog. That's one of WordPress's blogs. MapQuest citation, press release. This was from a premium distribution. So that's Yahoo Finance. Derby City Tree. That's a rank jacker site for some testing stuff that I was doing. Another Felling Pro page. Weebly, another Web 2.0 asset. These are all the assets that Huzaifa was just mentioning typically don't get indexed. There's nothing special about this. Why is it indexed then? Because we spoon feed Google with the data that we want Google to pull into the knowledge graph. This is what I was getting at with this. First and foremost, guys, your local business project. Now we're on page 2. Strikingly, Facebook, another Felling Pro page. Nextdoor, so citation vault. Tumblr, another Web 2. Apple, another citation from Yext Power Listings. Felling Pro, another Google site page from the same Google site. Right? Cake.me, another Web 2.0. You guys understand, I own 100% of all 20 results for a brand search for this particular brand. So that's first and foremost. This knowledge graph is very well developed. Why? Because of specifically what we do to help Google develop the knowledge graph the way that we want it to. which is, again, now in this is a very poor example because this is a lead gen asset and I am not publishing Google Business Posts. But one of the ways that you can force Google to pull data into a knowledge graph, or at least encourage Google to pull data into a knowledge graph, is to link out with the Learn More button, so the CTA button, to external page URLs that have accurate information published about the business. Guys, that is a direct linked connection from the Google Business Profile to brand supporting assets or data that corroborates how the GBP is optimized. So Google has little choice but to pull that data into the knowledge graph for that particular brand. Google Business Posts is one of the most powerful things that you can do to link out to page URLs that have accurate information published about the business. That can be any type of citation. Remember, a traditional or structured citation is a business directory listing, but an unstructured or non-traditional citation is any published mention of name, address, phone number, and website, or some combination of those data points. Doesn't matter where it's published. It's just any published mention. That is a citation. So an unstructured citation can be a Web 2.0 profile, a Web 2.0 post, a press release, social media posts, social media profiles, video citations, where in the description of the YouTube video, you have a name, address, phone number, and website mentioned, right? Image citations, document citations. Google Docs are document citations, right? All of those things become citations. Any page URL that you can index in Google that has accurate information published about the business now becomes a URL that you want to spoon feed back into Google. How do we do it? Through Google Business Posts, Learn More button, CTA button, same as attributes and schema. Again, back to my audits, guys. I always talk about this. It's entity analysis, which is the first section of my audits. I check first brand search. Does it pop a knowledge panel? Then number 2 is 80 brand search supporting assets. Of the top 2 pages, you should have 16 or more, so 80% or greater of the top 20 results should be branded or supporting assets specifically mentioning that particular branded location, especially when you have a geolocated browser for the location that the GBP is registered in, and then you do a brand search. You should own the top, basically all 20 results should be specifically mentioning that particular location. If it's not, then you have entity work to do first. Before you start building links, before you start doing all the other things, you should be making sure that the knowledge graph is well developed so that Google has a good understanding of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. And you have provided Google with enough supporting and validating evidence to corroborate that information. Does that make sense? And so then the next step then is, are supporting assets discoverable? So I go check, are they publishing posts regularly and linking out to brand and supporting assets? I check the schema. Does the schema have same as attributes? Let me show you. In the local business schema, the same page URLs that you want to collect and build links to or link to from the GBP with Google Business Posts, then you want to also reference those same page URLs in the same as attributes for the local business schema, right? Because that tells Google that these are where we also have a presence on the web, where this business has a presence on the web. Do you understand? And then, so I'm going to show you that over here. So we're going to go take a look at the location landing page for the Louisville Felling Pro project. What do we see? Local business schema with the appropriate subtype, home and construction business. And you'll see the same as attributes. These are the page URLs, guys, that I'm talking about. You want to extract all the page URLs that you can find indexed in Google that have a citation. Whether it's structured or unstructured, doesn't matter. It has to be accurate information, though. And then you reference all of those in the same as attributes of the ID page. Link out to them with Google Business Posts with the Learn More button regularly, because that, again, direct link connection from the GBP to what you want Google to understand about the business. Okay. Then number 3 is the ID page. So what do you see up here, guys? ID page. And again, this is all in the audit documents that I do, right? GB post, schema, and ID page. That's how you improve brand authority very quickly. And you can do this in less than 30 days, guys. You can populate the top 2 pages almost 100%. We've got a service called Brand Builder specifically for that. It's $549, and we can guarantee within 28 days, 4 weeks, you're going to own the top 2 pages of the search results. So that's strengthening the local entity, the local brand, right? And so then lastly is the ID page. So again, if we go take a look at this, this is the ID page, which has been developed specifically so that we can reference all of those page URLs and provide it in one dedicated resource. That is precisely what an ID page is supposed to be for, guys. A dedicated resource, a unique resource identifier that, when provided, is a resource that the search engines can go to where they can corroborate or validate local entity information. So what do I mean? Well, you can see this is optimized with a semantic triplet statement: who we are, what we do, subject, object, predicate. Who we are, what we do, where we do it. Louisville Felling Pro is the brand. Tree Service, the product or service entity, and Jefferson County is the location entity, right? And so this is saying, and then in here on this page, when I say we reference all of the external page URLs and branded and supporting assets, we do it a number of ways. We either embed it, hyperlink to it, or we put them into a G sheet, the URLs for all those page URLs. In column B, column A, we put keywords that are relevant to that industry or that for that business. And then in column C, we concatenate the keywords with the URLs to create anchor text links that are in a published G sheet. Then we grab the embed code and we embed the G sheet into the ID page. And then we designate the ID page in the add ID field of the local business schema, so that when Google comes and recrawl this page, it will then go to this resource, where then once it gets to this resource, it spiders out to every single page and post, page URL that's indexed in Google that has accurate information published about the business. So when Google comes and crawls this, it then goes out and says, oh, okay, here's all of the places that there are, or all the page URLs in Google's index that have accurate information published about the business, right? You see how, again, Louisville Felling Pro, this is just a Web 2.0 profile, but it doesn't matter. It's talking about Louisville Felling Pro, right? So we go ahead and add that in there. We'll just scroll up and pick another one. Okay, here's another one. This one looks like this one may have been terminated or suspended. It does make sense to modify and clean these up occasionally, guys, because there will be links that will break and stuff like that. But let's see, here's another one, tree trimming service. That's all it is. So this is just another page URL that has a link to us. So all I'm saying, guys, is that all of this stuff is one way that you can very quickly build authority and strength to a local brand. And all of those Web 2.0 assets and everything, you notice in my project here, how a lot of those are indexed that you're saying don't index. There's nothing special about these, right? Like, let's look at what was the one that I was looking at a moment ago? Here, this one. There's nothing special about these. There's not like a lot of content on these or anything else. But why are they being picked up then, instead of not being indexed, as Uzaifa was mentioning, that they typically aren't indexed? Because they're put into things like this, right? The ID page, right? The ID page, if we go back to this ID page, you'll see, and I'll show you if we go look at Majestic, we have links built to this ID page. Look at the trust flow values. Look at the topical trust flow categories. They're 100% relevant. And so if the ID page becomes a central hub where you consolidate and reference all of the branded and supporting assets and external page URLs that have accurate information published about the business, and then you start building links consistently to the ID page, which is what I started showing you this one for, that's a tier 0 asset, guys. And if you reference all of your tier 1 branded assets and external page URLs in that asset and then build links to it, Google has no choice but to pay attention to it. Do you understand? That's how you populate the top 2 pages very quickly, because you force Google to recognize them through Google Business Post, which this is a very poor example of that. The ID page, which can rank, and also once designated in the add ID field of local business schema, Google will become aware of all of those other assets. And then in order for them to become more valuable, more powerful, push link equity with the appropriate topical and or geographic relevance into those assets. The most efficient way to do it is through an ID page, because it's one centralized location that you can build links to then push link authority and relevance into all of those branded and supporting assets. You understand? It's a very powerful strategy. There's a reason why I've been teaching the ID page method since 2019, 5 years now. It's because it works. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. All right, moving on, because I spent a lot of time on that. Sorry. But I think it's important for you guys to understand that. Next one, could you clarify what a stack in SEO is? It just means connecting multiple properties together. So an iframe stack is, and I was just showing this in the DHA 3-day workshop. Somebody was asking me about when to go out and build branded and supporting assets for a lead gen asset. And here's what I was showing. This is one of the SOPs that I created called the content mirroring method. Some of the assets that you just saw for the Louisville Felling project were because of this. This is the SOP I created for that. But here's an example of this, a stack. This is what I call a content mirroring structure, which is nothing other than an iframe stack. Okay. And what this is this is showing that we take the money site page of a site and we summarize that into about 200 to 225 words of text that then we create a YouTube video from that text. And we use I use wave.video, which is all AI driven now. So you just add the text from the post summary or the page summary into a video, wave.video, and wave.video automatically creates the video with text to speech, everything, all done via AI. It's done very, very quickly, very efficient. And now we've got a YouTube video. Then what we do is we create a blog. We mirror the site structure into a Blogger blog. And then we use the Blogger blog as a container where we embed the location page and the YouTube video. That is a summary of the location page, which links to that. We create a playlist, which is a container, right? And so this is the first layer of the iframe stack or the content mirroring structure. We don't need any new content. That's why we call this the content mirroring, because we just take the content from here. We build all of these supporting assets from that one bit of content that we created here. And so this is like the Russian doll structure, right? So if you know the Russian dolls, you have the big doll and you open it up and there's a slightly smaller one in it. Then you open that up, there's a slightly smaller one. You keep doing that until it gets all the way down to the smallest doll. The money site is the smallest doll and the Google Business Profile, right? Those are the smallest dolls. So we wrap a slightly larger container around them, then a slightly larger container around those two assets, then a slightly larger container around those three assets, then a slightly larger container around those four assets. Each one of those are all done through iframes. That's an iframe stack. That's what a stack is. Each one of these layers becomes a link building target. You can build links and push link equity and relevance into any one of these layers. And because of the way that iframes work, which is almost like a bi-directional do follow link, no kidding, you're literally going to pass link equity and relevance from each, no matter where you build the links. I can build links to any one of the gsuite pages, and it's going to flow through the structure all the way down to the money site and the Google Business Profile. Each one of those will benefit from that link that was built to here. Or I could build links to the cloud pages or to the Blogger page. So again, I was just showing this, like I said earlier today, but if I do, well, you can see it here. Right here is the Google site for that with the content mirror structure. You can see it right here, right, guys? And I don't do this for the service pages. I just do it for the location pages. Why? Because we're not trying to rank service pages. Those of you that are still going out there and creating service times city for every service and every city, you don't need to do that. Just create a location page and then link to your service pages and optimize at the category and topic level for the location page. And you'll be able to rank one location page for all the services. So we're trying to improve the performance of location pages because that's what we're trying to rank for local searches. So all we do is duplicate the location page structure into this. That's part of the content mirror, right? So there's the home page, which is optimized for Jefferson County. Go look at the Louisville Felling Pro site, and you'll see that that is exactly how the website. This is the location landing page. This is the Louisville page. If you go to the home page, it's optimized for Jefferson County, Kentucky. Look at the SEO title, right? Because all five of these supporting locations or service area locations are within Jefferson County. So the home page is optimized for the broader regional entity or the broader location entity that is all inclusive of the locations within the defined service area. So the homepage is optimized for Jefferson County, Kentucky. These five locations, here are all within Jefferson County, Kentucky. You understand? So the content mirror, the homepage of the G site is going to be optimized for Jefferson County, Kentucky. Then these are five child pages that all fall within Jefferson County, Kentucky. You understand? And so here is the content mirror structure. There's the YouTube video, which has, by the way, that's an embedded playlist. The playlist is also a silo. The playlist is also a container. Do you guys understand that? The playlist is a container that contains videos, but the playlist also has its own URL. So we create a silo and we daisy chain and interlink the videos within the silo the same way that this graphic is showing in the structure, right? So we have internal links within the silo, the YouTube silo, and then we embed the location landing page and the video that was created from that page, or I said location landing page, the location page and the video that was created from the summary of that page into the blog post the Blogger blog, which the Blogger blog is a blog that has a page or post that is mirrored for each one of the location pages on the money site. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? We do a 1-to-1 ratio for every page on the money site, or at least for the location pages, into a Blogger blog. And then the same thing, we do a separate cloud page for each one of those pages. Then we do a G site, which is what I'm showing you here. We have the structure is mirrored. That's why it's called the content mirroring method. And then we use this as a container. So look at this. There's no content on this page, guys, other than this and this. You see that? This structure here is nothing other than a container with embeds. That's an iframe stack. And that's where, again, if we go back and take a look, let's just do one that doesn't have a brand search. Like, here's one, tree service, Newburgh, Kentucky. It's one of the low competition areas in that service area. But here's an example of that. So here's my Newburgh page above the maps pack. And then I have a Google site just below the maps pack. That's that page. And I don't know why it always does this. It always shows the Oklahoma page for that search query. I don't know why that is. But it doesn't matter, because it's still going to, if somebody were to click on it, it's still going to lead them to my client, or to generate the lead through my lead gen asset, which I've got a lead buyer in this area. But you guys see that? So there's another page. This is another supporting asset. There's the ID page. So you can see how we've got multiple assets ranking on page one without needing to produce any additional content. We did all of that from this one piece of content, this one page. That's clear. All right. So yes, there is value in building cloud stacks. Yes, there is value about building Web 2.0 properties, getting them indexed. Indexing is one thing. Getting them recognized to where they'll rank in a brand search and all of that, that's different. That's why you build links to it. Again, the ID page is the best place to do that, because the ID page ties everything. It's one dedicated resource that ties everything together. And then you build links to that, and you can do it very aggressively. I don't mean spam it, but you can build links more with the link velocity at a higher volume, meaning you build links faster to that than you would ever want to your money site. You can also be more aggressive with keyword anchors to an ID page, as long as it's on a high authority property, which is why I host my ID pages in Amazon S3. Look at the URL. I've always done it there, okay? Because it's a high authority property, which means we can be aggressive with link building to this. I'm not super aggressive to it. I don't have to be, because we use proper links with proper relevance. That's why they rank. That's why they perform well. That's why it helps the overall project to perform well. Is that clear? All right, moving on. We're not going to get to all the questions today, that's for sure. Let's see. I'm thinking about making my own G stacks to get some hands-on experience. Can you give a general overview of how to silo interlink and what kind of content to put in each G Suite property? No, I can't do that here. First of all, it would take too long. The G stack process is very, very thorough. We had training, because we launched that training back in 2015. It was called RYS Academy, which stood for Rank Your Shit Academy. No kidding. And then we had RYS Academy Reloaded about 2 years later, where we updated it. And the original co-developer kind of stepped aside, and Rob Beal, who is now with Marco Benavides at the Heavy Hitter Club, Marco and Rob really kind of developed what was RYS Academy Reloaded. And then when Marco split from Semantic Mastery in 2020, we agreed that we wouldn't sell that course anymore, because he was mostly responsible for developing it. And so as part of our separation agreement, we agreed that we wouldn't sell it anymore. So I can't teach it, is what I'm saying. It wouldn't be right. And I'm not going to do it in a Hump Day Hangout anyway. And even I won't even do it in Mastermind, just because we had that agreement, and I will honor my agreement with Marco. Does that make sense? So we can't teach that anymore. If you want to learn about it, I'm sure there's other courses out there. You could probably find a copy of RYS Academy somehow, and you could learn it that way. All right, moving on. My brand organizes locations within the URL structure rather than using subdomains. Okay. And my target region is the entire country. Should I create separate branded assets like social profiles and Web2s for each city? Only if it has a Google business profile. Like, in other words, guys, understand that there's an overall brand knowledge graph for business. And if it's a local business with multiple locations, then there are location specific knowledge graphs as well that are part of the overall brand knowledge graph. But then they're specific to that particular location. And so what I recommend is, if you have where you're trying to target a large area, you only build branded and supporting assets for the locations that have a Google Business Profile also. Otherwise, all the other stuff would just be included in the overall brand knowledge graph, which is you optimize for that using organization schema. You understand? Organization schema is specifically for optimizing for the overall brand. And then location specific schema is local business schema. You understand it? You can connect local business schema to parent organization. So again, I only recommend having brand separate social media profiles, Web2s, etc. for when you have multiple locations, and then you would have a separate set of brand specific assets, or excuse me, location specific assets for each one of the branded locations, if that's clear. All right. Will strengthen. Additionally, if I opt for the latter, will strengthen my brand's visibility for location. Yeah, and again, that's what I just answered that. So yes, brand or location specific branded assets are more valuable for specific locations. But I don't build brand specific, or excuse me, location specific assets unless there is a GPP. That's clear. Because otherwise it's going to be overall brand assets that would be referenced in the same as of the organization schema. Same as attributes for local business schema should be referencing location specific assets. You understand? So there's location neutral assets, which can be like a Twitter profile for a branded Twitter profile for X profile, whatever, right? That's location neutral. That's fine. You can have a company brand page that isn't a local business page on Facebook, for example. That would be an overall brand page, but then you can have location specific Facebook pages that are optimized as a local business page. Does that make sense? So you can have all of those. And in organization schema, you would reference the location neutral profiles. And in local business schema, you reference the location specific profiles. Unlike the assets you make where you add a location to your brand name, my brand name does not have a location in it, and I do not use the subdomain for my location as locations are siloed in the URL. So my branded entity assets in the ID page will use just the brand name without the city modifier. In this case, should I add the schema in which the ID page is referenced to the home page? I'm not sure I understand that. And if I do, in this case, should I add the schema in which the ID page is referenced to the home page? Well, the ID page remember guys, an ID page for a local business schema is supposed to corroborate or validate local business information, right? So ID pages, as they are applied to local business schema, should only have accurate information or reference information about that specific branded location. Okay. And so you don't want to point the ID page, let's see. The ID page is referenced to the home page. No, by the way, I mean, it depends on what is your location landing page for that specific location, because the local business schema should be inserted only on the location landing page, not globally, not site-wide. So if the home page is the location landing page, then fine. Local business schema gets inserted into the home page, and it references the home page as the URL for that local business, as the primary URL for that local business. And in the ID page will be an ID page that was optimized for that specific branded location. Okay. If you're using a location landing page as an inner page, as opposed to the home page, which is what I just demonstrated here, look at the website URL for this, right? Or excuse me, if we go back to here, the website URL for Louisville Felling Pro is, there it is. It's the Louisville page, not the home page. Okay. That's where the local business schema is inserted. If we go look at that, that's the page URL. Look at the page URL that I analyzed here was the Louisville page, right? And so it's referencing local business schema there. If I run this test to look at the home page, you'll see that is organization schema. That is brand schema, right? Organization schema. So the home page is optimized for the brand, which it always should be. And then the location landing page, which can also be the home page, can have local business schema too, right? I don't know if that answers the question, but I'm not sure I understood the question. So I don't know if I clarified that or not, but I got to move on. Check the schema on your Louisville Felling Pro site, and the add ID URL is not set to the Amazon S3 ID page. Instead, it says louisvillefelling.pro.organization. No, you're again, Zaifa, I appreciate you investigating, but you're misunderstanding. You are looking at the homepage. The homepage is not the location landing page. The location landing page is the page that is linked to from the GBP. That's where local business schema goes. That's where the ID page for that specific location would be referenced. It wouldn't be referenced here. This is overall brand scheme. I don't have an overall brand ID page for this because I don't need it. It's a single location business. Now, if I wanted to, I could have an ID page here for the overall Felling Pro brand. But that's not a function that's going to help improve local business or local search. Excuse me. It does to a degree because it's a whole. It's strength. It's reinforcing brand strength, right, so to speak. But what I'm trying to do is rank for local terms for this project, which is why I showed you. If we go back to the site, let's just go grab the link. Location landing page has the proper scheme with the add ID field referencing the dedicated ID page, which is shown right here. Okay. Local business schema, guys, should only go on the location landing page. It shouldn't go site wide. And if the homepage isn't the location landing page, which it oftentimes shouldn't be, especially for a service area business, then I don't put the local business schema on the homepage. Right? Homepage, the location landing page should be optimized for the city that the GBP is located in. It shouldn't be the broader term. The homepage should be optimized in the broadest terms possible, who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. Right? So why would you link to a homepage that's optimized for an entire company as the country, excuse me, as the location landing page, when you have a GBP that is optimized, that is physically registered in one specific city? Right? Don't you want the website that the GBP is linked to provide agreement with how the GBP is optimized? That's a term from Ted Kubitis. You should want that location landing page to agree with and corroborate how the GBP is optimized. So if the homepage is optimized for a large region and you make that the location landing page where the GBP is registered to one specific city, that's mixed signals. That's conflicting data. So why not have a dedicated page optimized for the specific city that the GBP is located in, so that you can make the homepage broad, so that you're telling Google and the rest of the world on the broadest terms possible from the homepage, which makes sense. That's logical. This is who we are. This is what we do. And this is where we do it in the broadest terms possible. Then you add specificity through inner pages, specifically a page optimized for the particular city that the GBP is registered in, that then you link to as the location landing page from the GBP, so that you have agreement, you corroborate, you validate how the GBP is optimized via the page that it's linked to, right? It's much better that way for a service area business that covers a large area, right? Moving on. Chuck says, I have a local client in the retirement community industry that has a single location business. The homepage is optimized for brand, GBP category, and location. I'm creating a location page with top sites, things to do, etc., to create locally relevant content on the money site. You talk about how you would optimize the title tag and page structure or headers of this page. Yeah, it's the same thing that I talk about in all my audits. So if we come back over here and look at that audit document, I always reference this right here. That's this. This is the page structure section. So I always go through this, but what was his name? Chuck, I have a local or full SEO audit service where I go through this exact document right here, which is 19 points across 4 sections: entity analysis, on-page analysis for the self-hosted site, on-page analysis for the GBP right here, and then lastly, the competitive link analysis, which is the backlink and off-page analysis, which is starting right here. All right, so it's 4 components, 19 points. What I do is I go through each of these 19 points and I say it's either good or it needs improvement. That's what you see up here at this little legend. If it needs improvement, then I provide a recommendation. And then after I'm done with all that, then I go through a video where I record a video where I narrate and I go through each and every one of those points and explain very specifically, here's what I found. It's either good, needs improvement. If it needs improvement, then I explain why I'm recommending what I'm recommending. And I show you exactly how I came to those conclusions. That's why my audit videos, just to be clear, my audit videos are very, very long. They're getting longer too. Like you can see a number of them here in the last week, couple of weeks, hour and 10 minutes, hour and 9 minutes. Some of them are short for the clients that get a lot of audits very often, because then I don't have to repeat the same concepts over and over and over again. but most of them, especially for new ones, they're typically long. And it sucks because I'd spend so much time doing it, but I want to be very thorough in explaining why I'm recommending what I'm recommending so that you're confident in making those changes or executing those changes. I'm not just going to say, do this. Because first of all, how do you know I'm not full of shit? That's why I want to show you exactly how I came to the conclusion so that you're confident in what I'm saying is accurate. Okay. And number two, I also don't want to just give you a fish. I'd rather teach you to fish so that you can implement that strategy across other projects, other client projects, right? So to answer your question, what I do in this section here is I talk about page structure, guys, because page structure is critically important. And so what I provide here is I go through and I show how Google Business categories were created for that particular project. And then I show in the data how the Google Business category and how that was created from Wikipedia topics or entities. So I reference that so that then now we have the Wikipedia topic or entity pages available so that when we go to optimize the page structure, we can look at the entity variants so that we can optimize the main optimization elements of the page, which are titles, headings, and subheadings, using entity terms instead of keywords. So, and the way that we optimize at the entity level, which is what I call category and topic optimization, is we identify the Google Business categories first, which is what I show right here. I'd show the categories. Then I show how those categories were created with Wikipedia topics. A topic is an entity in Wikipedia. Do you understand? If it has a Wikipedia page, that is an entity or what I call a topic. Okay. And so I show how Google Business categories were created from topics. And then I show how to optimize at the page, the main optimization elements of the page, which are titles, headings, and subheadings, using entity variants and all of those optimization elements. So that Google understands that the page is optimized at the category or the entity level as opposed to a keyword level. What that does is it opens up that page to be able to rank for all of the search queries that are associated with those entities, even if those queries aren't present on the page, right? So again, I go through all of that very thoroughly in the audits. And when how I recommend doing that or optimizing the title tags is what you see here, right? The SEO titles, which is semantic triplet statements, guys. It's subject, object, predicate. Who you are in layman's terms. It's who you are, what you do, where you do it. Those are three entities that we are referencing in the SEO title. Brand entity, product or service entity, location entity. Remember, what is an entity? It's a person, place, or thing. What is the semantic web? It's how entities relate or associate to each other. Relate to each other or associate with each other, whatever. So what are we doing with this? When we're trying to optimize for the semantic web, guys, we should be optimizing for entities, not keywords. And if the semantic web is about how entities associate to each other, then we want to try to force Google to recognize the associations in which we want them to recognize, which is the brand. Notice something, guys. The brand entity is always referenced in every single page title type. Why? Because we always want Google to make the associations between the brand, the who we are, and what they do and or where they do it. You understand? It's about creating entity associations in the top level SEO or document or meta titles. Document titles, meta titles, SEO titles, they're all interchangeable. It's the same thing. And through top level pages, we're trying to force entity associations. Do you understand? That is precisely why we do it this way. So identifying what the Google Business, that's easy. Go to Google Business and look, or Google Maps, and do a search for various keywords related to your industry and extract all the relevant categories. And then you determine how those categories were created through Wikipedia topics or entities. And now when we go to optimize the page structure, we know exactly which entities to use and where to get all the variants of those terms, right? Example, if we look at like arborist, just as an example, arborist Wikipedia. I'm going to open this up. And by the way, one of the Google Business categories, take a look at this. Go into maps. Well, we're probably not going to see it here because I don't have my keywords anywhere or GMB everywhere extension in Firefox. So we'll look at it here. Look at the two categories. There's tree service and arborist service. Okay, you guys see that? So arborist service was created from this. And we're going to run out of time today, by the way. I'm not going to get to all the questions. But this is what I'm trying to show you guys. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Arborist service, you guys see that? That's one Google Business category that was created from two Wikipedia topics or entities. Arborist and service economics. Service has multiple meanings depending on which context it is used. This is what's called a disambiguation page that shows you the contextual relevance of the different versions of the word service depending on how it's used. Those in the way that arborist service or tree service was created as a Google business category was by combining tree, so the topic or entity for tree, and service, but in the context in which we're talking about service, it's service economics, which is a act or use for which a consumer, government, or company or government is willing to pay. So what tree service is tree and service economics combined to create tree service. Arborist service is arborist and service economics combined to create arborist service. So I always list that in these audits right here as I show the Google business category. So I do the location entities first. Then I will show here, and I'll just demonstrate this. This is my template file, so I'll have to edit this. But I would show, like, we're looking at arborist service. So I would say arborist service, oops, and it's little s service. Then I would put C as a category there. Then underneath that, I'm going to put arborist, and I'm going to put T because that's a topic, plus, and then I would put service, and then put D as in disambiguation so that you can see the redirect chain for this. And then I would put service underscore economics here. So I would do service underscore and then economics. Like that. And then what I do is I go copy each of those Wikipedia page URLs and then hyperlink to them in here, so that you have each one of those Wikipedia page URLs. So you have the arborist page, disambiguation page for service, and then service economics. And then that way, when I go to provide page structure recommendations, which includes titles, headings, subheadings, and internal linking, I'm going to use entity variants, category and topic terms through the main optimization elements of the page, titles, headings, and subheadings, so that Google understands that the page is optimized at the entity level, not the keyword level, so that it opens up that page's ability to rank for all the search queries that Google has already identified as relevant to the tree service category. Do you understand? Or the arborist service category. And when I'm going to optimize those pages, I look at the entity variants. How do you find the entity variants? Well, it's whatever's in bold here, are entity variants for this term, as well as if you click on tools, what links here, hide transclusions and hide links. One of my mastermind members, Nolan, showed me this trick, and it's fabulous. If I click go, these terms right here are the entity variants. All of these are synonyms for this entity term. So that's how you can optimize for topics and categories. Identify the categories first by going to Google Business. Then you can figure out how the categories were created through Wikipedia topics or entities. Then if you link to all of those and now you click on tools, what links here, you can get entity variants for each of those terms so that you can optimize the page through the main optimization elements with entity variants instead of hammering the same term over and over and over again, which could cause Google to think the page is keyword optimized instead of entity optimized, because it will treat the page differently. When you're optimized for keywords, guys, Google, that page will typically only rank for that particular search query and close variants of that query. When you optimize at the entity levels, what I call category and topic optimization, then that opens up that page's ability to rank for all the search queries, phrases, keywords, etc., that Google has associated with that category, whether that keyword's even present on the page. That's how we can rank pages for dozens of search queries without having 3,000 words of content on the page, without having 15 H2s on the page where you're trying to target every variant of the keyword. You don't need to do that anymore, guys. Do you understand? Because of large language models, Google has its own, which is fully integrated into its search algorithm. Google understands our language a lot better. We don't have to hammer it over the head with fucking keywords anymore. Optimize at the entity level. It is much more efficient. You'll need less content, less pages. Your site will need less links because there will be less target URLs to build links to. Just everything's more efficient now that Google has a better understanding of our language. Okay. All right. So Chuck, I hope that helped. I didn't really give you any examples here for this, but I was trying to show you how you can come to this and decide on this yourself. I don't know if that answered your question or not. I'm going to clear that because that's part of my template. But if you need help with it, go order a full SEO audit from me at Semantic Links. Or Vetted. You can go to Vetted, VETTTED, and you'll see my profile. I have a full SEO audit service there too. or you can come to me direct and order it from Semantic Links, and I will do the SEO audit for you and provide you with those specific recommendations that then you can implement. And you'll learn from that audit, guys. Again, that's why my audit review videos are an hour and 10 minutes long oftentimes, because I'm trying to teach you how to then implement this on other projects without needing to buy an audit from me. That's my goal, is to teach you how to do it, not just tell you what to do, right? And so I'm just pointing to, guys, I'm happy to share this information on a Hump Day Hangout. But what I found in the mastermind is that, and by the way, I provide audits like this for free in the mastermind, as long as you let me use it as a training opportunity for the rest of the group. And the reason I brought that up is because I started doing free audits in the mastermind specifically because even though I teach this all the time, even in free settings now, a lot of people don't know how to apply this to their own particular situations or their clients' situations. So that's why I offered to do this in the mastermind for free, so that I can use this as a training opportunity to show how this method can be applied to various circumstances or situations, so that you guys can start to learn how to apply this method, which is a much more efficient and better way to optimize. You can learn how to apply that in various situations, right? Single location business, service area business, single location business that covers a large area, service area. Maybe it's a multiple location business. Maybe it's a multiple location service area business. So there's so many different configurations. Maybe it's a multi-business category, service category business that changes how you would optimize. All of those things are things that are important to understand. How do you apply these methods in various circumstances, which is why I recommend, if you don't know how to apply it, either purchase an audit, join the mastermind, and submit it for free, a free audit, so that I can use it as a training opportunity. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and hide those, and I'll leave the other ones available for next week. We're past the 5 o'clock time, guys. So I'm sorry if I didn't get to answer the rest of the questions, but they were good questions, and I was trying to be very thorough in my responses today. So appreciate you guys. Do I have any comments that I need to reply to?
Yeah, just take a quick look. There was a earlier question. I just started looking about links to the branded citation types, and then Jim had a question about ID pages.
Okay, no sweat. Thanks, Adam. 2K3 Design says, do you send any links to these branded citation type links? Yeah, well, I mean, yes and no. We do we do both, but mostly it's through the ID page. But I'll just show you because I got my workbook open right here. You'll see my tier 2 link sheet on my Louisville Felling Pro workbook. And you'll see there are links there that we're building, like the Google site from the content mirroring structure that I was showing you guys earlier. Yeah, we build links to that. There's no question. That's the whole point of the content mirroring structure. But then we build links to cloud pages, batch geo maps, web or tier 1 links. We build tier 2 links to tier 1 links. So these are just links on various blogs. But then we also will pull out our branded asset URLs and build links to those directly. But those are also, links are being built to those as part of the ID page, which is what I was showing you before, because they're all referenced up here anyway, right? So that was a good question. But yes, to answer your question, yes, we build links. Jim says, what up, jerks? What's up, Jim? He says, ID page, you seem to always put yours on S3. Have you tried a link wheel of ID pages all referencing each other across all the major DR hosts, kind of like Jesper's tool? No, because I have one dedicated ID page for each local business or each location. And I've always done it with Amazon S3 because that's what I started using in 2019 when I developed the ID page strategy, which was 5 years ago now. And I've always used Amazon S3 because of the high authority. It seems to work just great the way that it is. I'm not going to complicate the ID page strategy right now because it works very well, and I'm not going to overcomplicate it. When it's not broke, don't fix it. So it would be worth testing, Jim. I think it's a valid test. I'm just not going to do it. Okay. Just not right now because I don't have the bandwidth for it. And what we are doing is working well. It has been for years. Okay, guys, I got to wrap it up. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for sticking around for an extra couple minutes.